Because every time God sent a prophet, in the message of the prophet, there was a threat and a warning. So it is today. America, you don't have a lot of time to play with the lives and the destiny of a people that God has chosen for himself. We are that people. We are the real children of Israel. And you have it there in your scripture. If you would bless us, you would be blessed by God. But if you continue your evil plans against us, then God will step up the calamities that are facing you from north to south to east to west. Yes, we have to find the path.
So, if you can tell by the title, this is about the idea that is permeating throughout Abayala, Turtle Island, so-called America, with Africans America, so-called black people, who are obsessed with being American. And it's cultish because America in and of itself is a cult. Like, we live within a cult. We do all the things that cults do. We just may be a little bit farther from the extreme side because everything is dialectic, so it's all a spectrum. So we are definitely in a cult. Nevertheless, the folk that want to be American are basically like Nuwapians. Now, if you don't know who Nuwapians are, it was a cult made by this man named Malachi York that was extremely popular, where dude had thousands of followers. Dude had thousands of followers. Not only did he have thousands of followers, he was extremely influential, and he also was a sex pest. I say that because obviously, you know, with YouTube, certain words you can't say. He hurt a lot of children and adults. But actually, funny enough, Mark Lamont Hill was a Nuwapian.
I run up one of the stores, so again, like I wasn't casual. This is the Holy Tabernacle tattoo.
Now, I never heard of that
years old. Right. So just for people that say like, people like to inflate it. Everybody in jail was a kingpin. Nobody was on the corner, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just saying, like, I wasn't a disciple, but I wasn't a casual. You know what I mean? So I ran MLK Bookstore. There's two MLK bookstores. I helped run along with a bunch of folk ran MLK Bookstore. The one off Ashby, the one right across the street from Philly's Finest Barbershop, and I ended up helping start another one. I studied at Edgewood, at the store on Edgewood Avenue. Before I got there, I was in Philly with Sajad at 52nd and Thompson Street. I used to go to the masjid there when Musa was there as imam. So this is just the context. When I left, I had suspicions. I had seen things with my own eyes. So again, I know a lot of people. I seen these dudes on the internet, half of them look like to me. But I see these dudes on the internet talking about it's not true, they got proof, they got evidence. You can't prove something didn't happen to people who were there. I was a teenager. I moved in as a teenager. You know what I mean? I was an older teenager, but I was a teenager. I wasn't like 13, which would have probably put me in harm's way, quite honestly. Actually, let me not say that. Because it seemed to me that he progressed. His pathology progressed over time. Anyway, but I'll say this, to answer your question, son. When I found out, I wasn't a little bit shocked. I was not a little bit shocked. I remember being on the land that they called, we called it Kadesh. It eventually became called Wahani, and then it became called Tamaray. Yeah. But again, the latter day Wahhabis don't even know we called it. When it started, it was called Kadesh. In fact, I was the driver I was Dr. York's. I was the chauffeur, not Dr. York, but of all the people going from Atlanta to the land. So I would drive back from Atlanta, from West End to Eatonton, sometimes 3-4 times a day. Which anybody knows, it's like driving from Philly to New York 3 times a day. Wow. Right. Not quite that long, but the same mileage. Anyway. And I remember last time I was on the land, I had stayed up there for a few days. I was staying up there in one of the trailers. One of the rappers from the Grave Diggers was there. He eventually died. And I remember walking into Club Ramses, which is the club he had built up there. And I remember walking in, and I wasn't supposed to walk in apparently, but they told me I was going for a walk. But I walked in, and there were kids there. Some had skates on because they were kind of skating around Ramses. The kids were two were like sitting on his lap. I'll say this: as soon as I opened the door, somebody said, "You can't be in here," and I turned around and left. It was one of them, "Don't be in here," like on some like. I know that time
felt really uncomfortable, is what you're saying.
It was an energy thing too, right? I had already heard things and seen things, but my understanding at that moment was that it was with other people's wives, other people's maybe young teenage girls. I knew that for fact.
Now, was you in there by yourself, or you was in there with family, other members?
No, I was solo. I was solo. Okay. I was solo, and I had worked my way kind of up not the ranks, but I was definitely trying. The goal of anybody who lived in Atlanta, in Georgia, was to move to the land. That was you wanted to live in that barn. You wanted to give all your shit and go to it, but that was the goal. It was just crazy now, but that was the goal. So I was teaching. I was teaching class. I was teaching Nuwapic.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Wow. I was doing all the things that you're supposed to do. I'm saying I got just because again, it's one of the things where some people will be like, nah,
that didn't happen.
Or you capping like it wasn't as much as he is suggesting. But I did what I'm going to show you. This is bug you out. And Nuwapic, by the way, which is not a real language, was a very different language when it started. It was so not ancient that when we say it was so not ancient.
So it kind of makes sense why he defends somebody like Dr. Umar. Dr. Umar, he got his doctorate, whatever. The cult of America is similar to the Nuwapians.
So this is the Compound nightclub?
No, not a compound.
Oh, it's not a compound? I'm sorry.
Not at all.
The centerpiece of the Putnam County property is a nightclub the group opened in October. At midday, it was in high decibel preparation for an upcoming party. Outside, there were parked 3 stretch limousines.
It's an Egyptian theme park.
This is a theme park?
An Egyptian theme park.
Now, there's some people who think this is a cult.
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. We don't happen to have a religious belief. You know what I'm saying? Now, on the other hand, culture, there's a connection there. So if you say we're a cult in the sense of we found a culture that works for us, yeah.
Are they dangerous?
In that it is very bombastic, it's very violent, it's very showy, and it is built upon this idea of superiority.
They physically harassed us and they hurt us economically. And I think the only way for us to deal with them is to respond in the same way. I think it's just a matter of time before people get the courage to start striking back.
We were told well-known civil rights advocate Reverend Al Sharpton was to speak on helping the Nuwaubians solve their building permit problems.
We must understand that we are not the inferior of America. We are the original people of the planet. We are the people of
That doesn't exist because those motherfuckers believe they were aliens. This dude, he got arrested, I think in 99 or 2002, one of the two. He was convicted in 2004 for 135 years. You see I have Louis Farrakhan in the thumbnail. He was somebody that spoke on him, showed him hella love because Louis Farrakhan is a piece of shit, and he's always been a piece of shit.
He's a knitter!
One of the greatest things you can watch is this event that happened in Harlem with the NOI and Dr. Betty Shabazz. They had a fundraiser for Dr. Betty Shabazz's daughter that was planning on assassinating Farrakhan. And that daughter also was the one who had the son that ended up sadly killing Betty when he set the house on fire because he had mental health issues. So that's how she lost her life by her own grandson. He set the house on fire. But his mom was someone who was working with somebody, I think in like Minnesota or some shit, to assassinate Farrakhan. She got caught because the person that she was connected to was actually a Fed. And so they were trying to raise money. And so they had this event in Harlem where it was one of the first times Dr. Betty and Farrakhan saw each other since Malcolm was assassinated. Because obviously we know Farrakhan was big on like, yeah, nah, we handle our own. Like,
Thank you very much. Thank you. I thank you very much. Somewhere out there, Stella Shabazz is here. She came all the way from Savannah, Georgia. Where are you? God bless you. In the name of the God of our forefathers and foremothers, the beneficent, the merciful. It is my privilege to stand before you, and it is, or it has been, awesome. I never expected whatever it was that I've experienced here today. One of the things that Malcolm always said to me is, don't be bitter. Remember Lot's wife. When they kill me, and they surely will, you have to use all of your energy to do what it is you have to do. And I've tried very hard to do that. Yes, you did. And one of the things is I did it because I had to do it. I defied my parents and married them, so I knew I couldn't go home. If I did go home, my mother would remind me every day so that I knew that I had to do what I had to do. But I was never fearful. Please understand it. Malcolm took the fear out of my heart, out of my mind, and out of my existence. Whatever will be. But I'm not going to waste my time being frightened about it. And you conjure up images in your own mind. And a lot of times people will try to put you into that trap so that you constantly have to look over your shoulders and perhaps throw a little salt. So that I have tried to do what it was that I had to do. Another thing he said was be bright and smart and all of that. But always try to be humble. If not 24 hours a day, at least a portion of the 24 hours a day. And a friend of mine was saying that, remember, the world rotates every 24 hours. And she says, God have mercy on the soul that thinks they're sitting on top of the world as the world rotates every 24 hours. Because you might find yourself mashed. To Mrs. Khadijah Farrakhan, to the distinguished dais guest, to the honorable brothers and sisters, to the viewers and the various satellites that's transmitted, connected from the landmark theater that we call the Apollo Theater. I am delighted to have this opportunity this day, May the 6th, 1995, 8 days from Mother's Day. It's a wonderful Mother's Day gift. It is one that I will remember for the rest of my life. Sitting in the Apollo Theater, that a man had a vision when he saw the Apollo Theater boarded up and trash in front of it and people sleeping in the covers of the Apollo Theater. And whatever money his family thought he was going to leave, he put into the Apollo Theater to bring it out of bankruptcy. And after that happened, not one penny of that money, and it was a lot of it. After that happened, he had to then try to find paint and architects and the chandeliers that you see hanging back there. That was also part of his vision. But today we are sitting in the Apollo Theater. And when it was further putting distance between he and whatever little money he had, I understand that Congressman Rangel took over the honors. Give them both a hand. People with a purpose, with an agenda, with determination, can do what everyone else around this globe is doing. So that we applaud ourselves. And let me say to you that it is a specific, unique, intense, and focused pleasure to have the opportunity of this experience in quest of justice, to thank so many people whose bottom line agenda was equity and justice. God says it, and legislated by man. What could be more honorable than that? My Methodist mother frequently said, find the good and praise it. Sometimes I wonder if we have forgotten. Because I'm sure if my mother said it, your mother must have said it to you. So that my purpose this night is to try to thank some of the people for reaching out to me. I would therefore like to thank the heads of organizations, civil rights leaders, sorority and fraternity members, service organizational members, some of the elected officials, members of religious organizations, members of professional organizations, and the good brothers and sisters who just keep the sky from crushing all of us. I would like to thank, in Brooklyn, they have some veterans. I would like to thank the veterans who kept the enemies at bay and have to come home and still fight for equity and justice. Let me just say that I had a father who fought in the war. I had a brother who was killed in action in Korea. I had a brother who served in Nam. And I had a husband who served in the streets of America. And that justice is and was equal. So that we have to be vigilant, and we have to be focused, and we have to remember the Constitution of the United States, and we have to constantly review the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment to get our directions as to who we are, supposedly a free people. And the fact that we can determine part, at least, of our lives, and we cannot leave it to someone else. And if our representatives are not taking good care of us, the constituents, we need to change them. One of the lawyers in Minnesota, I was saying one day, I was just full of anxiety, and I said, where is the justice? And he says, you got to fight for it. And I say to you that if our lives are not the way we think they should be as human beings, as free people, and we are free, remember what Carter G. Woodson said, some of us behave in such a way, and that was the scenario about the back door, that we no longer have to go to the back door, but some of us continue to go to the back door. He says, and if there is no back door, we'll make one. We must look at ourselves and how we carry out our own lifespan, and understand that we have to do more than what we have done in the past, because nobody else is going to do it for you. A lot of folks are waiting for some white folks, good white folks, to come in and straighten their lives out. You have not read the papers or watched the news. CNN is a good example. Destabilization is all over the world. It's not just striking our people, it is striking world people. So that if we want change, then we have to do it ourselves. You gonna tell me to sit down now? Okay. let me kind of hurry up. Satellite time is going down. Gotta hurry up. I would like to thank select individuals who've reached out to me, but I'd like to thank the legal team. Good night, have mercy. Part of the defense team was Dan S. Scott. I'd like to thank him. But a real dynamo was Larry Leventhal. He jumps up like a jumping jack. He didn't walk to give Counselor Mr. Sutton notes. He would do power walking. I'd like to thank Mr. William Counselor. He is a credit to the American justice system. Last but surely not least, I'd like to thank Mr. Sutton. This brilliant man who encouraged the legal team, who helped the legal team become totally focused, a man who has helped me and my family. I really should not say a man, because Mr. Sutton never does anything by himself, whether he says it or not. It is always his family. And he says that his father, who was his high school principal, and 3 of his sisters taught him, and he was the youngest. What was that, 20 children? 15 children. See, I said that so the 15 would sound less. Taught them to do so. I don't know what I would have done without the Sutton family, because it has not been easily. Finally, I would like to thank Mr. Louis Farrakhan, you know him as Minister Farrakhan, for his original gentle words of assurance for my daughter and myself and her sisters, and for his suggestion of support. As he said, we will have to help Brother Malcolm's family. I like the way he said that, and I hope that he continues to see my husband as Brother Malcolm. A man born of a Grenadian mother and a Southern black preacher father who was a Garveyite. A man who built every house he's ever lived in. A man who was a family man. And Malcolm was 6 years old when his father was found under a streetcar in Detroit, Michigan. Boy, boy, boy. Let me just say that, I know. Malcolm was a good man. Now, if you don't think so, obviously you've been hearing something that you should not have been hearing. Malcolm went into that movement out of prison with 4 mosques, made up of senior citizens. And before he was exposed from that movement, there was a mosque in every major city in the United States and outside of the United States. For God's sake, don't take away his work and his legacy. He spent time away from his family that he should have been with his family. And now, don't reduce his work to nothing. Whatever discipline I have, which is not much, came from Malcolm, not my mother. Whatever strength I have came from Malcolm, not my mother. Whatever tolerance and love of my people came from Malcolm. I was reared like most folks going through public schools with not much respect for myself or black people. So that I have Malcolm to thank. How can I have 6 kids and go to graduate school, and every other month I've never got to foreclose on the house, and the kids was in school and the car note and the food and the this and the that and the other? How could I do that if I didn't have some of his wisdom? How could I have nothing and still consider it a responsibility to help others? I can remember Mr. Sutton and his brother, who called me into the office once and said, you know, why didn't you tell us they were going to foreclose on your house and take your house? Why didn't you tell us? Well, we have decided, he said, that we're going to help you. And I started crying. He said, why are you crying? I said, because you all are so kind. He says, he really is a businessman. Those tears dried up. He said, my dear, we're not helping you out of kindness, but it is much easier to help you rather than to have to take care of you. Minister Farrakhan, may the God of our forefathers forever guide you on your journey. May your conceptual framework keep broadening, and may you take up the mantle and do God's work. May the God of our forefathers always guide us. Thank you.
Farrakhan, though, was somebody who bigged up the Nuwaubians.
They heard Malachi York. They heard a brilliant black brother. They saw him building a compound, a small nation here in Georgia. Is he the Messiah? Trumped up charges. Break up his movement. Put brother in jail. Bring him into court. Fine. If you can't find a way to trump up charges, find a way to kill him. Find a way to kill him.
Because it was this whole idea of racial essentialism and racial superiority. As we know, race is a sociological phenomenon, so it's a sociogeny. So it doesn't exist in bioscience, but it exists in interpersonal and personal interactions. You are judged by race as far as in this colony, not even necessarily by looks, but that's an easy indicator. But it's usually used as a way to like be able to like identify people for a plethora of things. But again, it's a sociological phenomenon, because as shitty as Sinners was, the one thing that Ryan Coogler could have did was speak on the fact that Chinese people at that time was seen as colored. Because again, race makes no sense.
Like, oh man, we've been African this whole time.
Because still to this day, people are fighting over the idea that Malachi York was targeted. Even though there's like first-hand accounts, the cult of personality that he created still to this day exists. There's still people right now online to this day that scream about Dr. Malachi York. But his idea of racial superiority, racial essentialism, ties into the idea of the Black American. Because again, what is America but a colonial project that was created by imperial means? That's it. That's what America is.
This is Shay Davis, man, my gun go blam.
So it's an idea. So America itself doesn't exist unless you actually give into the idea of America. Meaning America is metaphysical. Like borders are metaphysical. So the idea of America is something that, you know, the people who did the imperialism to create the colonies, that's something that they put on Abiyala. A Black American, again, what is black? We know you could talk about the Greeks and stuff when they first interacted with people in North Africa and calling everybody that they interacted with in North Africa Libyan and blah, blah, blah. And then saying that the Arabs through interaction, like through interaction of trade and then also the sub-Saharan slave trade, called people black, but it wasn't institutionalized. The idea of black became obviously institutionalized by 1676. When we talk about the Bacon Rebellion, yada, yada, yada. I don't need to go into that because at this point we already fucking get it. But black, the idea of black was created by whiteness to be subservient to that idea, that ideology, however that moves.
Where are your slaves?
Blackness is something that we created as a way of a diasporic response to being separated from Africa. And shout out to everybody that's in the chat. I appreciate y'all listening to me ramble for a little bit. The idea of black created by white folk to have something subservient to it. We created blackness from black because, again, if we were all stolen from predominantly West Africa, then obviously North Africa, East Africa, and all that other stuff came, but predominantly West Africa, you had a bunch of different nations all together on boats by the thousands that all didn't speak the same language. So think about how amazing language is before I keep going into this. But imagine being on a boat after you were captured and sold into enslavement. You are sitting next to people you don't know or you haven't interacted with like that, and y'all both don't speak the same language. Now imagine that multiplied by the millions. So when it comes to like slang and jive and all that other shit, that's why it's so important to not tell people what woke means. But
this is Shay Davis, man, my gun go blam.
Black is supposed to be a subservient thing to whiteness. So a Black American fighting for Black America, what is that exactly? Are you wanting to colonize yourself within a colony? Because right now we have so many people that want to be foundationally Black American.
Pulse was a story primarily about Africans in America. If you know the history of foundational Black Americans.
They want to be Solan, which are so autochthonous Americans, which is the same thing because the Solan people were from Tariq Nasheed's camp. They actually talk on like Twitter Spaces all the time. Like I've listened to this shit. It's pretty sick.
That's a term that our brother Marak and a couple other brothers who are in here, they've created that term, and it means the same thing as foundational Black American. It's the same thing, and that's actually a very good thing that we use different terms to describe the same thing. Strategically, that's a very smart thing to do, ladies and gentlemen. We should have the ability to use different terms to describe the same thing. Yeah? Because when you do that, that prevents targeted suppression of a single term. See,
the idea though of this Black American, it's like, but why though? Like when you consider the fact that now we are at a point where people are arguing reparations. I mean, people have been arguing reparations for decades. Like obviously, you know, Father Moore and a bunch of other people before that have been arguing reparations for decades. But as we understand, money isn't real. So the value of it changes like that. And asking someone who used to see you as property for pay kind of makes no goddamn sense. Asking your abuser for like restitution is pretty odd, because why would I make it better for you if I don't like you?
Well, damn.
Like on a material level, if I don't fuck with you, what does it make any sense for me to do to give you something that is going to put you in a better position than me? This is why racism, the system, is so, for lack of a better term, it's so beautiful of a fucked up thing, because you can have materially poor people who are considered white still feel better than me or you or anybody else in this chat because they're considered white, until a better white with better money comes around and then shuns them. And then they don't even see the dynamic in that. They just think they need to go get more money. They just think they need their bread up. So when it comes to this idea of being a Black American, you are just basically asking to be subservient to whiteness. You don't necessarily want liberation. You want to be free, but you don't want to be liberated. And I think I maybe explained this before, but I'll explain it now. To be free is to just do what you're doing right now. Like we all are free. Freedom, though, has its limits. It can be taken away. It can be a limited amount of time. It can start to wane, or again, you can start to gain more freedom over time. But there's always some kind of factor. There's always some kind of impediment that makes it so that your freedom is gauged. But liberation is in and of itself antagonistic, because you are trying to get yourself away from something that is impeding upon your ass being able to be free to do whatever you want.
Bro, it's not even that deep.
Shut the fuck up. So we are free to do shit within a framework of colony under empire, but we are free to do whatever we want. Liberation brings about actual freedom, full-on freedom. That's the dialectical understanding, like the extrapolation. It's not freedom and liberation. It's liberation brings about full-on freedom. So to want to be a Black American, to want to be the chosen people, you in and of yourself are looking to basically make it so that you are closer to the feet of your oppressor at their dinner table within master's house.
You know, it's this particular guy who keeps talking about us and our genetic makeup. The thing is that when it comes to our genetics, let me be clear. Do we have African genetics? Absolutely. The thing is this, though. They are playing games with our genes, and they've admitted to it. If you look hard enough, number one, they are using self-reported African Americans. That can be anybody. We had so much immigration over here, that can be anybody, number one. So that already messes up a lot of things.
This country was built upon genocide. Why would you ever want to be connected to it in any way, shape, form, or fashion?
That's a death wish, bitch. You dying alone.
But now the Black American flag is starting to pop up more. The Black American flag came out in like the 70s by this dude named Melvin Charles and this other dude named Gleason Jackson. I think when it was finally made and they were moving around with it, Gleason was dead, but Melvin got to see it.
What the fuck is y'all doing, clown nigga?
But Gleason and Melvin wanted to be Black Americans. Like, people connect to that Black American flag, think like, oh yeah, nah, that's about like, that's same as the RBG. It's not. Even his daughter said it's not, because he didn't believe in that.
I have a question. So, is the Black American Heritage flag
Is it the African American heritage flag or the Black American heritage flag? Because I see a lot of people online saying the African American heritage flag. How do you feel about that?
It's the Black American Heritage Flag because this flag was created in 1967, and so at that point in time, we had recently become Black people because we were Negroes, in the early 60s, up until, I guess I would say, during the Civil Rights Movement when we became, Black people. And so I think Black American Heritage Flag represents all of us, those of us who have slave lineage, and even those who have come here from the African diaspora, because it is about living here in America as a Black person, as Black people. And that's what this flag represents.
Okay. I have a question. Is there a difference with the Black American Heritage Flag and the RBG flag, created, I believe, by Marcus Garvey? Are they similar, or is there a difference?
Well, they're different. And I guess, this flag was created by my father and Gleason, and they took it as far as they could. I mean, Gleason died a year after they created it. But, this flag is based on the experience of the Black American, and that's it. The other flag, I haven't done a whole lot of research on it. I think it just caught on for whatever reason. But this flag is specific to who we are and what we've done in this country. And if you buy the book, you'll also see a lot of the articles that were written about my father, about the flag, pictures with different groups of children, pictures of my father at City Hall. And
You like, oh yeah, but what about the Moorish sword that's in the center of the flag? That sword has absolutely nothing to do with the Moors. It has everything to do with, like, tilling this land and making this place better because we're owed this. Those fig leaves, same thing. All of that is America-centric. There was an interview with Melvin about the flag. They asked him, like, how did it come about? Like, why did you want to do it? You and Gleason or whatever.
I think one of the interesting points about the creation of the flag in the mind is that it was in both our minds for a long time. Even as a child at 3 years old, I would go and sit on the curb in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and watch the parade go by. I see the American flag, I see the flag that represents Italian, Spanish, whatever it might be, and they would march up and down the street honoring the 30th of May. And then when it came time for the Negro, at that time we were called, I remember every year we would march down, and guess what? All we had was the American flag.
And guess what? All we had was the American flag.
And I went home to my mother, and I remember asking her, and I think I couldn't have been no more than 5 or 6 at that point. I said, Mommy, why don't we have a flag? But every once in a while, it would creep into my mind.
That's when he went on the fantastical journey to create the Black American flag because he wanted our flag within America. So he wanted a colony within America.
But I wanted to design the flag, and that's when we started. The next process was for us to be able to get together, to sit down and talk about what we wanted to put in the flag. But after about 2.5 weeks, we came up with this idea to make a flag that had diagonal stripes of red and black, and to have a fig wreath circled in the center of it, and a blunted sword. And of course, we had to recognize that each item, we had to have some sort of explanation. And then when we looked at the blunted sword, we thought of the feeling of having pride, and also knowing that when you have a blunted sword, when you blunt it, you learn to curdle the earth. And then we thought about the wreath, which we also had in the color gold, that would be for peace, prosperity, and everlasting life. And the red would be for the rich blood we've shed for freedom, justice, and human dignity. And the color black was for the pride in our pigmentation. The inspiration basically came from us sitting down, not only sitting down and talking about it, but I would go to the library, he would go to the library. We'd both go. And we sat down and looked at all the different items. There's a thought pattern that we put into it. I mean, I think about, there was a piece of the musician in me. There's a piece of the businessman that was in me, and there was a piece of the child that's still in me. Then I could stand there and wave.
Melvin wrote a book called Rallying Point. And I've seen excerpts of it because I've refused to buy it because the book itself, because it's so rare, like some places that's just like $200. Like, don't get me wrong, I watch a lot of propaganda for the sake of educating myself. I don't need to hear somebody tap dancing for whiteness in a book for $200, $300. Luckily, though, because it's easy through research, you find out shit, I found excerpts from that book where Melvin is talking about wanting to create a flag that's connected to being a Black American, because we don't have any connection to Africa, and trying to get a connection to Africa kind of falls on deaf ears. So we should want to be Black Americans.
If I could take a moment to read from the rallying point, and this goes to the question of the symbols, the symbolism concerning the flag. And this is on page 16 of the rallying point, and I just think this would be good to close with. We seem to stand naked as a people without the sure knowledge of a rich past to give us warmth. Gleason and I wanted to synthesize what we knew of the past and to meld it with the hopes we continue to have for the future and have it all come together in a flag, the symbol of a people. The sense of making a contribution grows stronger each day as my research made it clearer that there was no single unifying symbol with which Black people could identify.
That there was no single unifying symbol with which Black people could identify.
We wanted to create such a symbol, yet we found the task of choosing the elements of that symbol to be incredible in magnitude. How was one to find a simple yet powerful image to place on the field of black and red we had chosen? What could have meaning to the generation caught in the daily bombardment of marches, water hosings, jailings, and painful reminders of second-class citizenship? Finally, we did not seek to portray the struggle of the 60s. It became indefinitely more important to find pride in what had been an unheralded but glorious past in our African heritage. It was essential to convey somehow the strength that lay in a people who had survived the wretchedness of slavery. It was important, even more, to give the world a glimpse of what we as a people wanted to characterize as our future. Our Black leaders had already said it, but the message wasn't heard too clearly as the rhetoric rolled from stages and platforms. Black people wanted peace and prosperity, secretes from barely buried memories of slave crossings, breaking plantations, lost families, and rootlessness. And he goes on to then explain why they chose the Moorish boarding sword and how important it was, and that it was a very powerful image. So I wanted to end with that, that there was so much thought put into this, and that he even quotes scripture, Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4. But the sword in the center of that black field just represented the strength of who we are.
So I say this with all due disrespect. Fuck what Melvin Charles and Gleason Jackson was talking about.
This has no bearing on the story at all.
Because it makes absolutely no sense. Because you're basically asking yourself to be oppressed. This is why people like Stephen A. Smith can put himself into the political realm.
You run with the sugar and spice, so why don't you just act real nice?
You know, because he's black.
Stephen A. Smith is somebody that averaged less than 2 points in high school and somehow is a multimillionaire for talking about sports. And he himself has not one athletic bone in his body. This idea of being a Black American, of being the chosen people. You have people who want to believe that Africans in America were like here before the Europeans, because they talk about Mansa Musa's, I think it's his cousin or his brother or whatever, who allegedly took like 100 ships to come over here, and then only one came back, and then supposedly like Africans were here before Europeans, and it's like, okay.
And these enemies are exposed now.
I mean, even if they were, let's just say, I mean, obviously, there's archaeological shit that's saying that they weren't. There might be some stuff that might hint that they were. But even if Africans were, even if Africans from the continent were here, as far as, they still traveled here, right? You have to get a fucking boat to come here. And then, if we're talking about but what about indigenous tribes? Like, we indigenous to this place. You see some of these indigenous people, they look like us. It's like, you do know that the Spanish had colonies in Abayala before the British and French and English and all that other shit. Like, there was a famous enslaved revolt that happened in a Spanish colony in what is now South Carolina, where the people fought. A lot of people were able to get away, either find other shit to do, or intermingle with the indigenous people, like Africans intermingled with the indigenous people in what is now called Florida. And in South Carolina, that's where the Yamasee people were. And so there's some Yamasee people that look like me, right? But that doesn't mean the Yamasee people were always African. But as far as your nationality, Yamasee people were Yamasee people. Then African people who were enslaved in that Spanish colony ended up intermingling with the Yamasee people. So there's Yamasee people that look like you and me, and some of those Yamasee people, in I think like the it was either the 17th or 18th century, there was a Yamasee War where indigenous people fought the English or whatever, and fought even some of their own people, because some indigenous people was on demon timing because they wanted to like integrate and submit to colonizing by, you know, changing to Christianity, enslaving Africans, and all that other nonsense. Because, you know, you got like the 5 civil tribes. But Yamasee people, there are Yamasee people again to this day that look like you and I, because enslaved Africans who were in a Spanish colony escaped, and then enslaved Africans, formerly enslaved Africans, started intermingling and humping and hunching with the Yamasee people, and then you have, you know, dark brown Yamasee people. So this idea that, yeah, you know, Africans were here first, that we were here first, these are pretendians, $5 Indians, blah, blah, blah. It's like, why do you want to be from here? Like, in the early 19th century, the British colonies and all that, they made it illegal to take Africans from the continent and put them in your colonies. You had to keep the ones that you had there and then maybe move them around. Like maybe you could take some from like, say, America and take them to the Caribbean, but you can't go to Africa and like get more. And that was like in the early 19th century, so the early 1800s. They made that illegal. So you had like people like Thomas Jefferson and all that, like watching the waters and blah, blah, blah. So to that argument, like, yes, there are some African people whose families' roots start here because their enslaved ancestors were either already here and then procreated and now you're here, or they were already here because they got kidnapped again and then procreated, and that's why you're here. So you still aren't indigenous to here. That's like me living in Ohio currently. Somebody that was from my mama but lived, obviously born and raised in New York City, saying, because I'm going to make a child or whatever that's in Ohio, now we are full-blooded Ohioans. No, we're not. Like my kid, yes, a first-generation Ohioan, but that doesn't mean that they're indigenous to Ohio, because I'm not from Ohio. Like, this genealogy shit also ties into this chosen people nonsense. You are not a pie chart, right? Ethnicity, like your nationality and all that, is not bioscience. So when you get back your 23andMe and it says you're 40% Nigerian, 20% from the Congo, that doesn't make any sense. Because those places weren't always called that. Like, many years prior, the Congo was called Zaire. So you would have been 20% Zairian. Like, this want for a home, this want for something to hold on to, I understand, but trying to find solace in land and not in people is a fool's errand, because obviously we indigenous people land back, but the land back because of their families. Like, those indigenous people are going back to live with their families there. Or if you don't have a family, but you're going to make family. Like, family is not who you're related to, it's who you relate to. So while I do understand on a base level that idea of, yo, I want my own land, 40 acres and a mule, yada, yada, yada. You have to peel back those layers. Because you want that so you can be what? American here? Like, because if you get those 40 acres, wasn't those 40 acres somebody else's? Like, what happens with that? What you know? Who people never reckon with that? Or the reparations question of let's just get money again. Why in the fuck would I want restitution from people who saw me as property, wrote off my ancestors on their taxes, use my ancestors as collateral with banks? Chase Bank and Wells Fargo purchased banks that used to use African people as collateral on loans. Why? What the? How does that make any goddamn sense?
We're continuing our celebration of America 250 and all the people who literally and figuratively built this country. Right now, we can exclusively share a new report from ABC News and a first-of-its-kind collaboration with the 10 Million Names Project, an initiative dedicated to finding the names of the roughly 10 million people who were enslaved in pre- and post-colonial America. We set out to find the living descendants of the enslaved people who built the White House. Over nearly 2 years, the talented team at American Ancestors combed through hundreds of records across several states to make this happen, and to reveal one family never expected. Every year, millions of people from around the world visit our nation's capital, but there's a hidden history here, especially on Pennsylvania Avenue.
I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves.
Mrs. Obama exposed a fact that's often overlooked, that enslaved people's unpaid labor helped build the White House. Her comment inspired an ambitious question that for America's 250th anniversary, we set out to answer. Could we find the living descendants of the enslaved people who built the White House, an endeavor that's never been accomplished before? The genealogists at American Ancestors in Boston combed through hundreds of records across several states before finding Ashley Swain, a potential living descendant.
Hi, Ashley? Hi, yes.
And after confirming her family's genealogy,
I'm talking to the right person. That's really great news.
we asked her and her mother Jackie to come to Washington, D.C. so we could reveal our incredible discovery. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Ashley.
Lindsay and her fabulous team, they have uncovered some incredible information about one of your ancestors that is truly first of its kind. So before we get to that, just hearing that, what's going through your mind?
I just said, oh, wow. Right? Yeah, I think for me it's just excitement, nervousness, all the things. It's just like, how did I get here?
Lindsay, the table is yours.
Like, this idea of reparations, when it's material, always goes to money and land, right? But you have to reckon with the land question. In the money question, what? Like, what? You don't... In a perfect situation, we wouldn't have money in the way that it is constructed currently. Like the currency that we use for commerce, we wouldn't have it as it is currently, because here's a thing that might blow your fucking mind, right? If we have money, there's gonna still be poor people.
So anyway,
materially poor people. If everybody got a check, there's still going to be materially poor people. So what the fuck does that mean? That means that absolutely nothing has changed. You just have money now.
This is bullshit, bitch!
But you're going to have to spend that money because you have bills. Like, money is a parasite. You have to keep getting it. There's no stopping it. Like, you have to keep getting it within a capitalist fucking system. So to ask for a check back to be the chosen people, to do what with? A complete destruction, like a dissolution of this system is reparations. And that comes by way of proper planning, understanding civics, understanding all these things, doing the right things. Obviously, I'm not going to say all types of shit. Like, on my blue sky, I say inflammatory shit, but I don't give a fuck. But, like, because people don't know me. So, I mean, and if you do know me personally, then you know I'm joking. Or if you don't know I'm joking, then, whatever.
I summon the very fact that I am a man!
Fiat currency. Like, it's not something that is sustainable. Like, this idea that people think that capitalism is like centuries old. It is centuries old, but think like it's like centuries old in the sense that like, oh, it's like well embedded in the system. It's like commerce and capitalism aren't the same thing, Markets are markets. That's something that exists regardless of capitalism. Like Adam Smith with that whole barter system, we went from blah 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 to like bartering. That is a fucking lie.
You made that up.
Everything's made up, niggas stay woke.
Because humans, since the dawn of fucking interacting with each other, have operated in what is basically a mixed economy. Like, so say for instance, this chat. Say me and Trey, the way that we do commerce is I do something for Pink, Pink does something for Trey, Trey does something for me. We just all go in a circle basically. But it's like quid pro quo, right? But then me and Done and None, the way we do commerce is I fucking I'm just gonna do Done and None. Like it's not even a favor. I'm just going to do something for Done and None. So it's a gift economy. So I'm just gonna do something for Done and None. And then like if they want to whatever I do want to gift me for something or whatever, or I get it was whatever, but I just do it. And then like say with me and Robin, like we figure out some kind of currency that we want to pass to each other, whether it be like salt, fucking gold, cobalt, like anything. Like we figure out something that we pass to each other, but we keep what that amount is like fixed. Like it doesn't fluctuate. Like it's not like gold prices. It stays one thing. Like that's how markets work. So this idea that capitalism is like something that we have to do is a fucking lie.
He lied. Y'all niggas worship him. Lied.
And this idea that we are the chosen people is a fucking lie. And tying that to like this idea of like Black American, where like it is a cult of you can keep that shit between you and your homies, right? Keep the Black American shit between you and your homies, right? It becomes dangerous when you start being xenophobic, xenomisic, homophobic, homomissic, transphobic, transmissic, all of those things, and you start arguing talking points and you sound like you're oppressor. Proper nationalism is never platformed. Only reactionary nationalism is. So like what's happening in South Africa with the xenophobia there, with the Afrophobia that they call it as well, is improper nationalism. It's people arguing the same things they argue here. Immigrants are stealing all our jobs. The immigrants are doing all of the crime. The immigrants are hurting us. The immigrants don't want to assimilate. Blah blah blah. There's not any time they talk about ANC taking money or any of the governments fucking them over. No, it's all the immigrants' fault. It's all the other Africans' fault. But what's funny is that these same South Africans have absolutely no smoke for the white people.
Obviously, if people are fed nonstop propaganda, it is like mass hypnosis. Right.
None. And if they do, please prove me wrong. But from what I know and from what I've been paying attention to, it has just been people yelling at people from Ghana and like Cote d'Ivoire, like other places. I have not seen not one South African fucking xenophobic group pull up on white Afrikaners and say anything. Like, white Afrikaners are so bold, they have their own white-only town in South Africa called Orania. I wish I was lying, but if you watch my 4-hour video on like politics, race, and blah, 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 I talk about Orania. But you see, that's not proper nationalism. Now, I'm not saying that proper nationalism is going in there and attacking the white Afrikaners, because some of those people, it's not their fault that they're there, right? But what I am saying is proper nationalism would come to the question of why do the white Afrikaners who make up most of the people owning land, but they are like 7%, that's what it is. Like I think it's like 7% own like 90-something%. Like it's a small percentage of people that own majority of the land. That's the nationalism. That's proper nationalism, right? Because it's like, if I'm a South African person, and if I lived through the apartheid, if I lived through the capitulation of the ANC, going from a radical armed resistance group to turning on Winnie Madikizela and Nelson being unrecognizable to when he left Robben Island, that to me personally, like obviously he did what he did. He's an amazing person for what he did, but that transition, which is wild to me. Like, so if I lived through that, if I lived through the Bantu education, if I lived through all of that, and I have a pride in South Africa and South Africans, I want a better living situation for everybody. We need to have a question. It's not no fucking no truth and reconciliation. Because South Africa Bishop Desmond Tutu did a truth and reconciliation where South African mercenaries, like dudes that was working for the government and mercenaries, got up there and was like explaining the horrific things that were doing to South Africans with smiles on their faces. Like there's interviews of dudes who was smiling like, yeah, we slit their throat, we set them on fire. They were this is why Mama Winnie was talking about we're gonna light their necklaces on fire. Because that's what they were doing to South Africa. It was so bad at the Truth and Reconciliation that Bishop Desmond Tutu was seen crying several times. And what's even sicker is that there were white people that live in South Africa that were saying, oh yeah, I don't even know why y'all doing this. Like, who cares? Like, get over it. Like, saying that. And then there were, South Africans saying like, yo, why y'all doing this? Like, we need something more material, right? So proper nationalism is arresting every single person that went up there and admitted to crimes against humanity. Because why would I allow this person to call themselves South African after they just told me that they stabbed the man several times and hung him? You are no longer South African proper. We got to figure some shit out. That's proper nationalism to me. Like, where we answer certain questions. Proper nationalism isn't Africans in America, so-called black people, operating from a space where they feel as though they aren't connected to anything. So they want to connect to something. So they connect to the flag. Like, proper nationalism isn't Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the Pledge of Allegiance. First of all, Colin Kaepernick asked a former terrorist, a former soldier, former terrorist, was a proper way to protest the flag. So that's already strike one. Him even asking. And then especially asking somebody from the fucking U.S. military. Strike two is him kneeling for the flag. Because you're still showing deference. Like Colin Kaepernick did an amazing psyop to us. Because you're still showing deference. Like, we all like, yeah, nah, get Colin a job. Nah, he a real black man talking about, like, cops killing us and blah, blah, blah. It's like, Colin Kaepernick's socks with pigs on it representing cops, and then him kneeling for the American flag, that's hypocritical. If you see the police as pigs, you don't even go out for the national anthem. Like, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. But that is very black American.
Fuck the culture. Ain't no culture. What is the culture? What?
The idea that Tariq Nasheed and the kids that made Solon and all that, of creating a space where there's delineation from Africans in America, but they don't want to call us that. Sorry, black Americans, and Africans in Africa, where there's a delineation where we separate because we got our own struggles and problems, so we don't fuck with y'all because y'all got your own struggles and problems. And then the age-old people in Africa don't even fuck with it. That's been a question amongst African spaces forever. Like, there's an old Kwame Ture, when he was Stokely Carmichael, meeting where he was talking, and a gentleman got up and he was like, yeah, nah, you know, those Africans don't really fuck with us. And Kwame had to be like, no, brother, I can't speak on that. I can't speak for that. Like, blah, blah, blah. We need to come together. But like, people have been feeling this because the other thing that comes from this idea of Black American, the other thing that comes from this idea of the cult, the Malachi York of it all, is racial essentialism and reductionism. Just because me and you look alike doesn't mean a goddamn thing. I don't know what politic you hold. Just because we grew up in the same neighborhood, it don't mean a goddamn thing. I don't know what politic you hold. Just because we understand the same slang and maybe speak the same language, don't hold the politic I hold. This idea of community is being bastardized to just mean everybody black. Like, I'm like, Issa Rae, I'm rooting for everybody black. Like, I'm not rooting for everybody black. But like, this is why like Black American and all this other shit, and why these arguments start to become something that we can't really be clear on, like have a straight through line. Because, for instance, like I said earlier, Stephen A. Smith, piece of shit white man, he said some disparage Jasmine Crockett. I say, you don't have no fucking right to talk about her, but I don't fuck with Jasmine Crockett politics. So me saying that, now I have to explain to you why I don't fuck with her politics, yada, yada, yada.
Texas tough, don't need no more bad built, bleach, blonde, butch bodies moving forward.
That's why I just say fuck all politicians. And I mean the ones that want to operate within electoralism, the ones that want to operate within reformism, and any organization that wants to operate within entryism. Because you are doing nothing more than perpetuating the same system that we are all stuck in. And it is progressive inertia, and all we end up doing is coming right back here. All of these conversations have been had already. The books have been written, the movies have been made, the documentaries have been made. All of this shit has happened already. Like, me doing YouTube is, again, like I said before, it's propaganda. Like, it's propaganda to get people to want to figure shit out. Go read some books, go join an org, go figure shit out. But I'll be damned that I act like, again, a Hassan Piker, like Golden Child type shit. Like, I don't understand that idea. Like, because the contradiction, we're on YouTube, right?
Oh, wow.
Owned by Google. Like, if I were to eventually get to the point where I can make money off of this, I would be getting a check from Google and getting hit up by sponsors who more than likely fund one of the fucking genocides, whether it be the DRC, Sudan, fucking, DRC, Sudan, Somalia. Well, it's not genocide in Somalia, but Somaliland bullshit. Like, whether it be like anything like that, any kind of fucked up shit going on in quote unquote South America, like anything like that. Like, there's difference between contradictions and hypocrisy. Hypocrisy would be me getting on here trying to act like holier than thou and trying to pull you into the cult of my personality. After saying America in and of itself is a cult, now you're making a cult within a cult. So it's just like that fucking Russian toy, just stacking on each other and shit. So when it comes to like people like Melvin Charles and Gleason Jackson making the Black American flag, actually, I'm gonna read to you the Black American Pledge of Allegiance if you don't know it, because this is how white this shit is. This is what I'm saying about being subservient to empire, because black was made to be subservient to empire. Blackness wasn't, but black was. Always remember that. Blackness is a politic. Black, I mean, if you want to shorten it, shorthand, yeah, sure, black is a politic, but black really is a word of the whites, right?
I got one thing to say. Yeah, one thing to say. Free Palestine. Okay.
Black American Heritage Flag, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge my respect to the flag of the Black American and to the people it represents. I shall remain aware of the color red, being ever mindful that it represents the blood shed by our forefathers. The color black gives me pride and identity. I shall always remain true to the American ideal that all men are created equally. Now, if you read that uncritically, you'd be like, what's wrong with that? You know, our forefathers, you know, he's clearly talking about like slavery and like, you know, blackness getting applied into the identity. And then, you know, the American ideal, like that's what they wrote in the papers, right? Okay, first and foremost, fuck the flag. Secondly, the bloodshed by our forefathers makes it sound as if enslavement was a war that we wasn't winning. Like, what the fuck are you talking? Bloodshed by our forefathers frames this in some kind of Civil War, American Revolution framing. What do you mean bloodshed by our forefathers? Like, forefathers, like bloodshed by our ancestors on indigenous land, sure. Bloodshed by our forefathers can be taken as like, motherfucker, you Christmas addicts? Like, what are we talking about? The color black gives us identity and pride, that's fine. I shall always remain true to the American ideal that all men are created equally. So that is a gross understanding of history. That is a disturbing understanding of history. Because those people didn't write the American they didn't write the Constitution or none of that to include, we were property. Majority of the people in that room that signed the Declaration of Independence owned humans. And the other people were in concert with them. They were cool with it.
Beg you to stop using the Constitution in the way that you're using it.
So what the fuck are you talking about? American ideal that all men are created equally. That is not the American ideal, materially speaking. We know that. And why? Because America don't include us as Americans unless we want to be Americans. That's when you have people saying enslavement of Africans and the forced labor that they did was contributions.
There's some misinformation going around about your stance on reparations. I guess just based off of someone proposed what we do with tax dollars, and you gave critique for the idea, but you weren't necessarily saying you were anti-reparations.
No.
And you've told me you've come lead on a couple projects.
Yes, like Truth and Reconciliation in the House. That's something that Barbara Lee was leading on that I'm now working on. I think that anybody that knows me knows that I'm a fan of, making sure that people understand our contributions.
Mm-hmm. Making sure that people understand our contributions.
Mm-hmm. People call enslavement of Africans and the labor that they were forced to do contributions. This fucking pledge sounds as if he is talking about us just not getting our fair share. And but we still love this place. Like, let's do it, guys. Fucking America, yeah. Are you out of your goddamn mind? This is why it's fuck Gleason Jackson and fuck Melvin Charles. Because what the fuck is wrong with you? Of course, I'm not popular enough to have FBA and ADOS in my mentions. And if I do, I'm going to just say this in advance so that way we can just not even argue. I don't care.
I really don't care.
All right, now back to this. So, the fact that these goddamn white men made this flag, right, in the 70s. No, sorry, not the 70s. In 67, my bad, in 67, is fucking nonsense. Another thing that's amazing about this shit is that, like I said, after the flag was made or whatever, Gleason died, but Melvin was still running around trying to get people to fuck with it. Melvin Charles wrote a letter to Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson ignored him. He wrote a letter to Lyndon B. Johnson to ask, can he raise the Black Heritage American flag at the White House? Lyndon B. Johnson left him on red.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize
to absolutely nobody.
In 1967, so in the 60s. So remember, in that time period, this white man was arguing to be more white during the civil rights era.
On this Black History Month, we're highlighting foundational Black Americans.
Like, he was... Then, not to mention, Melvin, because this flag was made in New Jersey, right? They wouldn't even hang it in New Jersey initially in the early 60s, 70s and shit. But Melvin was fighting tooth and nail to get it respected. Again, this motherfucker was writing Lyndon B. Johnson, not about, you know, the white riots, not about civil rights and shit. Nah. Can you please hang this flag? Like, at that time, because the civil rights, obviously the Voting Act passed in 64, but then I think in 67 or whatever, there was another part that passed where it was, it was obviously the right to vote, and also there was a part within the Civil Rights Act that was, it was punishable by law to attack anybody that's a civil rights worker. In the Civil Rights Act, they wrote a piece in the Civil Rights Act to say, hey, we're going to put this in here to let you know, guys, and because these acts are for white people, they ain't for me and you, I get that. It's punishable by law to attack people fighting for their civil rights, like organizing for it. They had to put that in the Civil Rights Act. This motherfucker, Melvin Charles, was writing a letter to Lyndon B. Johnson about raising a flag to be white. We got to stop taking people who want to be Americans seriously. We take them seriously, but not. And what I mean by that is, have the conversation. Explain to them why what the fuck they talking about makes absolutely no fucking sense. And be very loud with it if it's in a public space. And then not take them serious as far as like laugh to yourself. Like, I cannot believe that that you've been outside all of these years and you thought to yourself like, nah, I want to be American.
Do the knowledge, nigga.
What? Like, South Africa with its xenophobia, Afrophobia. Like, think about the Rwandan genocide, right? They were the whites and the capitulating Africans, and just Africans that was on demon time because of the whites, were racially separating Hutus and Tutsis by arbitrary fucking facial features and certain things. Now, that's sick, right? Because they're all in Rwanda, right? Yes, they're two different nations, but they're all in Rwanda. What the fuck? Like, measuring jaws and noses is eugenics. Like, now, when we talk about, like, say somebody who looks like they're from Ethiopia or looks like they're from Somalia or look like they're from Sudan, like, those people have a certain look, but that's not because that's some racial thing, you fucking. That is just because of how those people adapted to their material conditions. And also, just fucking randomness. Like, humans it's just randomness. Like, it's already been discussed, and it's being discussed more, that human evolution wasn't just out of East Africa, that it was a pan-African situation, and that and it was like separate groups of people, but all still same, like, humans, and then there was mosaic evolution. And mosaic evolution means, like, one set of people can evolve in a certain way quicker than another set. But it doesn't mean that they're different. It just means, like, I got my wings before you did, type shit. Or I got this and you didn't. But it don't mean that we different. It's just like different. It's like different colors of the same dog. Like, so the diaspora wars are completely fueled by whiteness. And we perpetuate them by arguing nationality and arguing border shit. white people made borders. Nationality, that's always been a thing, but a thing in a way that was positive for the people. Like, again, like you could be from the Hutus or the Tutsis, that's nationalities. Like those are nations, right? But this idea that you are whatever, so you can't link with them, or you're 30% Somali. I don't know what Somalia was called before it was called Somalia, but if you got checked then, you would be whatever the fuck it's called then, because that's not real. Like, as far as genealogically speaking, the best way to figure out your genetic makeup and shit is like following your parents to your grandparents to your great-grandparents, and then however far you can get within that. Like, but then by that time, it starts to get weaker and weaker as you go deeper and deeper. But you may see, like, maybe my great-great-great-great-granddad looked like me. But again, genealogically speaking, because of the space in between us. But that's biological science. People argue social sciences as biological sciences. So they argue delineation and, oh, I'm a FBA, I'm a foundationally Black American. What does that mean? That means that my people were here first, and I deserve reparations because my people did contributions. We built this place. Eat a dick.
I mean, in 1968, my father actually wrote a letter to Lyndon B. Johnson, who was president at the time, to see if they would raise the flag, I guess, at the White House. And he got a letter back from him, but really no acknowledgement. I mean, back then, he couldn't even raise the flag in the city where the flag was created, which was Linden, New Jersey. The town council, the mayor took it to the town council voted it down, and just this past year, I was able to have that flag raised in Linden, New Jersey.
You know the drill. Hit the like button to subscribe, the bell as well. All this crap, please do that, because I am brutally shadow banned.